Hi, Luke. I just want to talk with you about your paper here a little bit before tomorrow. Looking over this, your name and then the illegal immigration title that you have right here, you don't need to have that. You can go ahead and get rid of it because we will be creating a title page tomorrow. Looking over the rest of your paper, I've already skimmed through it. My biggest concern is that you have a lot of generalizations and broad statements that serve to actually undermine much of your argument because it becomes too easy for somebody reading for the first time to question your assertions. Also, I would like to know where much of your information comes from as I work down through the paper. You're citing a lot of stuff, and I think I saw one reference to homelandsecurity.gov, which is a fine website to use. But other than that, I don't know where a lot of your data or your assertions are coming from out of here. So it makes it difficult for me to know if I should trust what you're saying. If I can give you some examples of some of the things that I'm concerned with as we go down through here. Um, we begin here with you making a general history of immigration law in the United States. That's fine. With you wanting to talk about immigration, I think setting up the idea of immigration law is very appropriate. The one thing that I would say is if you were going to talk about questions of excluding immigration, you should do the opposite of that, which is talk about examples of the United States having an open immigration policy, which we did through much of the late 1800s and into the beginning of the 1900s. Yes, the Chinese were an exception to this, but an interesting question to ask right there might be why were the Chinese an exception to this? Um, then as you come down here, you jump all the way up to 1996. There are actually several major important immigration laws, including the Immigration um, Quota Act, which you skipped over here. These laws are important because the laws that were created in the late 1800s are not the laws that establish what we think of as our modern immigration system. And the laws that you do cite here from 1996 to 1994 were actually addendums to the existing laws, which largely structure our immigration system, which means that you have gone very far into the past and very close here into with recent history, but you've missed the main part that actually structure our current immigration system. Um, Coming on down through here further, then you then jump from this history. I'm sorry about this. You then state this history, but then you give me this piece right here about Rand Abramitsky saying that immigration has actually been good for the United States. How has it been good for the United States? In what ways has it been good for the United States? Can you provide me with some quotes that maybe back up what he's saying right here rather than just providing me with your synthesis? Um, just something that would give some weight to this idea. Um, Now, as we come down through here, you make the argument that these people have done something illegal by entering the country, which is fine. Um, but then you cite these statistics about what percentage of inmates they are. Is that a high percentage? So you say right here that in some places it's as high as 20% of the illegal um, of the inmates in the state of Florida are illegal immigrants. Where does this information come from? Um, that seems like a very, very high number to me, and I'd really like to know where that comes from. But beyond that, even what are the total percentage of people living in Florida who are illegal immigrants? And I'm curious if then there is a if illegal immigrants are overrepresented in the prison system. And then again, here you jump up to the Dream Act. Um, and you lay out the qualifications for this. And then in the last sentence, you say the bill produces controversy and is granting legal citizenship to people who have entered the country illegal. That's actually not what the Dream Act does. It does not grant citizenship to anybody. It just allows people to stay. For all intent and purposes, functioning as if they were on a green card, similar to what you were talking about back here with laws from California and what was the other state that you mentioned? California and someplace else saying that they were not eligible for access to Medicare or welfare, things like that. They still are not. The Dream Act doesn't change their ability to access, or in this case, not access social welfare programs. And then you jump into this question of President Donald Trump suggested we build a wall across the U.S. border. Is there any evidence saying that building this wall is actually going to solve the problem? There are actually some parts of the U.S. border that already have a wall. Are there lower levels of illegal immigration or border crossings in those areas that already have walls? And what are the mitigating factors to and with that? Um, a solution to the problem of illegal immigration would be better border security. What does border security mean? Does border security mean the wall that you talked about before? Or does it mean something else? Possibly more officers, use of technology such as drones and other things. Um, Again, for several paragraphs now, I feel like you're being very broad and you're skimming the surface of issues rather than diving down into them and dealing with some of the details. I bring that up because then when we jump down here to your conclusion, you say this is a problem we have to deal with, except I don't, you've not yet told me what the problem is. You told me that there are illegal immigrants who are criminals. Seemingly the biggest crime that they've committed was entering the country, but whereas there is a claim in here also that there is an overrepresentation of illegal aliens in places like Colorado, Florida, Arizona. You've not provided me with the documentation to say where that's coming from, and are they overrepresenting what's going on there even. Further, you've not provided me with any evidence that says, or actually, let's back that last statement up. What I would like you to do is weigh their economic benefit against their criminal, what's the opposite of benefit here? Hindrance, harm. So if they're going to provide something for us economically, but then they take something away for us with regard to crime, how do we balance those two things against one another? And is there at some point where we say, okay, well, one's good, the other's bad, but we're willing to say that's okay, or we're willing to say that's not okay? What criteria could we maybe use to have that conversation? Anyway, I just feel like there's a lot of good stuff here, but we need to be far more rigorous in the way that we're talking about this. You tend to skim the surface and then draw conclusions from some of that surface information, but you're not digging down in such a way that is convincing to somebody who doesn't already agree with you. Anyway, think about what I had to say. We'll discuss this further.